How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Today we are looking again at the Activision Blizzard deal, and we do have some developments going forward in regards to Microsoft looking at ways in how they can actually close this deal before the actual hearings are done, or before the actual procedures are underway, because they can actually do it. There are certain ways that they can, but obviously the easiest way would be just to have the CMA just buckle in and just say, you know what, we'll accept the remedies and we can go forward. But they are still playing hardball. They still believe they have the moral high ground, despite the fact that they got, pretty badly humiliated in the hearing. And I think they're going to be butthurt about that going forward. So any form of play nice probably went out the window when the Microsoft lawyers were all just cheering, being cheerful, having fun with the judge, while they looked at the CMA's people and they were pretty much on the floor in tears. But we do have this article over here, and this article is quite, it covers a few things quite well, so I just wanted to go through it because I think it's a really good article. Now, this report claims that Microsoft and ABK considering pulling ABK from the UK. Now, I've been saying this for quite some time, not on this channel, but just to people that I, friends and family, when the conversation comes up, and offering enforceable remedies as ways around the Activision CMA block. And, removing ABK from the UK is a really big deal. There will be lots of fines involved with this and everything, but in the grand scheme of things, I think Microsoft are well within their rights to do this, and this will hurt the UK. This will send a massive, massive, shockwave across the industry if they choose to do this. Now, as the article reads here, according to a recent report published by MLEX, Microsoft executives are actively exploring ways to close its acquisition of Activision Blizzard King, despite facing a block from the UK. The CMA, Competition and Markets Authority, has currently issued an order which prevents Microsoft from acquiring any interest in Activision or Blizzard or King, including their subsidiaries. They actually went a step further after they blocked and trolled Microsoft by saying that no part of Activision could join Microsoft. They're actively trying to push that through. The order is currently interim and expected to be made permanent soon. This is why Microsoft really want to get on the ball and act quickly before the CMA actually decide to do something that's irreparable, and real damage is going to be done no matter which way you look at it. Therefore, in response to this, MLEX has learned that Microsoft has hired additional lawyers to find out possible ways to close the Activision deal despite the block from the UK CMA. One possibility includes ABK exiting the UK and relocating to another European country outside of the jurisdiction of the CMA. This is like the absolute worst case scenario. They can do this. Thousands of jobs will be lost in the UK, and the CMA will be in absolute turmoil once those jobs are lost. And Microsoft are within their rights to completely relocate if they really want to, if they force the deal to go through. It's going to be pretty crappy on those that live in the UK, I can tell you that much. But for those that don't live in the, it's no matter which way you look at it, it's bad. But at the same time, there's $69 billion in the play here. So it's not that they won't keep their jobs if their acquisition goes through. The CMA is forcing them, if they go down this route, to, let go thousands of people that are working in the UK. And again, I don't see this as a Microsoft problem. I see this as a CMA problem, as a neutral on this matter. Through this scenario, Activision would sell its games through a distributor. Now, I used to work for a company a long time ago that actually went bust. They're a video games company, they're a PC company, a PC games company. I think they were called Explode, something like that. They're basically the cheap PC games in the UK. They were like £5. And when we were going bust, a company from another region wanted to actually buy us out, purely on the basis that because they can't distribute in Europe, we would be their gateway to distribute in Europe. That basically was the sole purpose of them buying into the UK, into our company, because our company was not doing very well. Money was being siphoned all over the place. Management was terrible. But in the end, that was the sole purpose of them being interested in the company, because they had no jurisdiction to sell in Europe. This was years ago, mind you, when UK was still in Europe, in terms of the European Union. This is something that Microsoft can actually do. They can basically find a publisher, pay that publisher money, and then all the games that come from Activision will be sold under that new umbrella. Or they can even just set up an umbrella company in the UK and potentially, I guess, I'm not sure of the legalities of that, and then funnel the games through that way. And all the stuff will be handled in Europe. The EU is going to be super happy because they've just got thousands of new jobs for their constituents. So it's a win-win for the EU, and it's a really big lose-lose for the CMA, the UK, Rishi Sunak, and Jeremy Hunt. I can imagine if this is the side that Microsoft is going to take, Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt are going to step in and put a stop to the CMA real quick, real fast. I cannot see them allowing this to happen. Because if this does happen, the shockwave that will send to the rest of the world regarding UK is big. This does not mean, of course, that Xbox games, the Xbox console, Activision Blizzard games, or Bethesda games are going to stop selling in the UK. That will remain business as usual. Xbox gamers will still be able to buy their Xbox games in the shops. Nothing for the consumer here will change. The only thing changing will be the amount of tax money that goes to the inland revenue from the UK. It's now going to go to somewhere else because those salaries, the business operating costs, will be handled in Europe. So Brussels will be getting all that money as a funneling central location. Now, some of the details I'm saying could be flexible, but you get the general gist of what I'm saying. The UK here stands to lose a lot of money if this is the way they decide to go. So this isn't like something that should be played down. And I do see a lot of PlayStation fanboys going, "Oh, the UK is their second biggest market. They're not going to leave the UK." This isn't them leaving the UK. The UK will remain exactly the way it is. They'll just be losing a huge portion of the market in terms of monetary gains through taxable income. That's it. And that is, as far as the government's concerned, that is way more important to them than what the CMA is actually doing right now. Because tax money is a lot of money, unless they're, of course, doing tax evasion. But that's another scenario altogether and another video if we ever do come to that. So that is something that needs to be taken into consideration. Now, they say another possibility that Microsoft is exploring is unilaterally extend the remedies it proposed and were accepted to the EU. So basically, we'll give you those remedies that the EU accepted. Do you accept them to the CMA? However, something along those lines of remedies were proposed to the CMA but rejected. Of course, my guess is the CMA didn't even look at the proposed remedies by Microsoft. They just actively rejected it because they wanted to block big tech. I mean, this is the only reason I really see them wanting to really block this deal, because they genuinely believe that the FTC and the EU would have blocked as well. And by them being the first to the punch, they were actually in a position where they could turn around and say, we were first to block them. And when the EU turned around and said no, the FTC from the get-go said, we're going to sue, so they were out of the equation and they no longer are counted. The UK now stands on its own. This approach will require Microsoft to voluntarily implement measures to address concerns specific to the UK market. And I think this is going to be the way that, everyone wins, right? The CMA is going to turn around and say, look, we forced Microsoft's knee, they kneeled, they gave us more remedies, and we accepted those remedies. Now we are happy, and we can go forward. Because they're not going to turn around now and say that, because they'll have egg on their face. And they don't want that. They already look stupid in the hearing. So looking any more stupid, and they might as well close shop and just quit today. Microsoft is also currently challenging the draft issued by the CMA that prevents them from acquiring any interest in the CMA for 10 years. CMA's ability to impose a global ban to address concerns in the UK market is central concern. I mean, this is huge, right? They're basically saying that you can't invest in the UK under this deal for 10 years. How does that look for the rest of the world? Like, I mean, this isn't just gaming. People look at this, oh, it's only video games, no one cares. This is the biggest deal in the tech industry, period. This is $79 billion. This isn't no like $30 pounds or £50 or £100 or £10,000 or £100,000 or 500 million. $79 billion is a lot of money, and anyone looking to make a massive acquisition like that in the future will look at the UK and stay the hell away if you're imposing these sorts of restrictions. Microsoft may possibly challenge the CMA's order and narrow its scope to the UK only and allow the deal to close elsewhere in the world. But what does this mean for the gamers in the UK on the Xbox side? But what this means for the people in the UK is quite simple. Their Game Pass deals will not have Activision Blizzard games. America and Europe and the rest of the world, when they pay for their Game Pass Ultimate or whatever the tier is going to be to include Activision Blizzard games, if it does go up, those will actually have all the cool, all the Activision games on there because they're now first party. But in the UK, unfortunately, those like me in the UK who have Game Pass will, because I think Game Pass is a good deal. And before any of you get in your, things in a twist, I also have PlayStation Premium. So, like I said, I'm a neutral. But we will get shafted quite heavily when it comes to gaming in the UK. I mean, that's a massive, massive nerf to the Game Pass if this deal goes through. I'm assuming I assume chances are we're going to pay the same price as the rest of the world as well. Lastly, MLX understands that Microsoft is also looking at the possibility of going ahead with the acquisition itself and later argue in court that the CMA's draft is illegal. I totally believe it's illegal if challenged by legal action by the UK watchdogs. I think it's totally what the CMA is doing. I think is highly wrong. They're basing they spent from the 32 weeks they supported Sony and their claim of it's going to hurt PlayStation and PlayStation's going to go out of business and all of this and all of that rubbish. And when they saw that was no longer standing, they scrabbled in ways to find something that could stick. And cloud gaming was something that could stick. And so they decided for the final 4 weeks to base their whole 32 weeks of argument on that. I mean, it's clear to see that they just threw everything at the wall and hoped something would stick, and this did. And across the EU as well, this was something that raised questions, but the EU decided that the remedies that were placed by Microsoft was good enough. So, this is going to be really interesting in how it develops. The Microsoft spokesperson told MLX that our priority is pursuing the appeal process in the UK, and we remain committed to constructive dialogue and solutions to address regulatory concerns. When Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, was asked if the company would go ahead and close the deal and stop selling products in the UK, the CEO responded, "Let's wait for it to play out." Now, I don't think there's anything in that statement from Satya Nadella. I think that was just them wagging their stick around because they're Microsoft, they're massive, and they have a lot of sway in the global world, right? They are one of the biggest, if not the biggest, tech companies in the world, and with that comes a level of responsibility and power. Just look at how Sony is controlling everything right now in the gaming universe. Power is everything. When MLS asked Microsoft representative on May 12th whether it could close around the UK, they said that it was a complicated question, but at some point we may need to think about it. However, a spokesperson from Microsoft also advised against reading too much into the comments. Of course they are, because that could give up, legal implications. It seems like Microsoft is determined to close its $68.7 billion USD merger with Activision, regardless of what they have to do. There are still some roadblocks and approvals they require before it's possible, so stay tuned to MP First for blah blah blah. Editor's note, we've updated the headline to clarify that ABK as a publisher is considering exiting the UK and selling its games in UK for a distributor. The fact that Activision Blizzard now is actually, turning around and themselves making this claim where they are considering making that change and exiting the UK market. Activision is turning around and making this threat. This is no longer a Microsoft thing. Both of these parties want this to go through for obvious reasons. It's a massive payday for the Activision shareholders, and if they have to leave, I think they will do it. I genuinely believe Activision will leave the UK. It doesn't mean that they can't sell their games here, because all they need to do is go to Atlas or someone, or anyone in the UK. Sega, whatever. I'm just throwing random names out that I know who have a UK branch. Square Enix, whatever it is, right? Even Capcom, I think, has a branch in the UK. anyone and just say, right, here's a contract, we want to put our games published through you. Can we do that? And they'll turn around and say yes if the deal is right, and that's it. Activision games will return to the UK through a subsidiary, and there's nothing the UK CMA can do about that. I don't know. This whole situation for the UK is getting really out of hand, and I know people are going to say it's just video games, but it's the message that's being sent out, and the message being sent out is huge, and one that should not be taken lightly by anyone in the UK. Well, that's it. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have the discussion. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Remain legend.